Hello and welcome to World Talks on TVP World. My name is Anna Kalczyńska. As the Tomahawk saga continues, with President Donald Trump signaling he may warn President Vladimir Putin that he will send Tomahawk missiles to Kiev if the war is not settled, a new information has surfaced. According to a recent Financial Times report, Ukraine has been carrying out precision strikes against Russian energy infrastructure with direct assistance of U.S. intelligence. The strikes have reportedly damaged several Russian refineries, reduced oil output, and hit one of the key pillars of Moscow's war economy. Apart from the tactical success, the disclosure also raises questions as to a potential escalation and how might Russia respond to it. Joining me to discuss this matter is Ashton Cirillo, former Sergeant Defense Intelligence of Ukraine. Good morning, and thank you so much for being with us here on TVP World.
Good morning, Anna, and again, I must thank the Polish people and the Polish government for all the assistance they have given us since the first day of the full-scale invasion. We are grateful for everything that the Polish people do.
Thank you so much. So allegedly, American analysts have been sharing data to help Ukrainians identify Russian vulnerabilities, plan routes, and evade Russian air defenses during deep-range drone attacks. So, from your perspective and understanding, how probable is this?
It's very probable. We've seen President Donald Trump and the United States truly step up in ways that commentators could not have imagined even 3 or 4 months ago. Vladimir Putin, the bloodthirsty dictator, overplayed his hand when he tried to humiliate the United States and President Trump in Alaska. And as such, we've now seen an ever closer growing relationship between President Zelensky, President Trump, and NATO. And because of this, we're seeing the fruits of that relationship, which is the decimation and destruction of Russia's energy infrastructure.
Right, so the relationship between the US and Ukraine has improved since this contentious Oval Office meeting, as we remember. However, from a strategic standpoint, how does this development cross now the line between the support and direct participation in the conflict?
Well, you used the term escalation earlier. That's a term that's a misnomer. Why do I say that? Putin's been full of threats for the last 25 years of his rule, and what we've seen is empty promises when it comes to what he portends to unleash on NATO and its allies. And as such, I don't think President Trump is too worried about Putin's empty words. From the time of the supposed cessation of intelligence sharing around February, March of this year, we've seen growing cooperation between the United States and Ukraine. And what that means is that although there have been advances in Russia's electronic warfare defense and some of their defense capacity, the teamwork between Ukraine and the United States is overcoming that in ways that Putin could not have expected nor anticipated.
Mm-hmm. On the other hand, China has maintained an increasingly assertive stance in the Ukraine conflict, deepening trade with Russia while presenting itself as a potential mediator. So does it push Washington, in your mind, to act more decisively or tread more cautiously on escalation?
The United States has said for at least the last half decade that the Pacific, specifically China, was the U.S.'s most concerning military enemy, military opponent. Whatever China is doing is being watched very closely by the U.S., and China is probably on the verge of really overstepping and misplaying their hand here. We saw that 100% tariffs were announced by the White House just on Friday afternoon against the People's Republic of China. And so China really needs to watch out for what they're doing because, again, the cooperation between the United States and Ukraine is only a force multiplier for the United States and Ukraine and all of our partners across the globe.
So how might Moscow interpret this revelation, and what kind of retaliation could it trigger, both militarily and diplomatically?
Well, militarily, I guess they can send more donkeys into the firing zone, more guys on motorcycles that will end up being liquidated. We have not seen anything that they have managed to do with their assaults. Currently, they're being pushed back in Zaporizhia Oblast. They're being pushed back in Donetsk Oblast. They are not making any headway in Kharkiv Oblast. Ultimately, Russia has failed to take advantage of the miscommunications between Ukraine and the United States in the early part of 2025. And now we're seeing a return to a more equilibrium. And in fact, we are pushing forward in multiple directions. And diplomatically, who cares what Medvedev says? Who cares what Lavrov says? Because what they say is worthless. It's what they say are lies. When they open their mouths, they lie.
Right. However, Russia is ramping up its production of the tanks, and Sergei Karaganov, one of the key strategists, says that 2025 must see Russia on the offensive and must crush Europe, as he says. So I wonder, what are the risks for Washington? Could this cooperation be seen as violating U.S.'s own stated limits on engagement in the war? And are they weighing this?
I think the question is, does President Trump get the Nobel Prize for peace for bringing this war to an end in 2026? Or does he get it in 2027? Because ultimately, a just peace is what Ukraine is going to enforce upon Russia with the help of the United States. And I don't think the U.S. is scared of any sort of escalation. The tanks that we're talking about are retrofitted armor that are really second, third generation tanks compared to the advanced technologies of the U.S. and what's coming into Ukraine. Additionally, once the Tomahawks are unleashed, when they are unleashed, in conjunction with Ukraine's domestic production of our own long-range strike capacity, and now the new drone deals between the United States and Ukraine, really, when they're talking about 2025 being the time to crush Europe, we're already well into the late stages of 2025, and the only thing that's being crushed is Putin's army.
Mm-hmm. Since you've mentioned the Tomahawk cruise missiles, what would such a move mean strategically, and would it mark a decisive turning point in Ukraine's ability to defend itself and to hit deep inside Russian territory? Or would it risk crossing a red line for Moscow, as they often stated?
There's no risk of crossing any red line. What Russia's been trying to do for 3.5 years, and in reality for 11, 12 years in some of the temporarily occupied areas, can neither grow nor succeed. They will not conquer Ukraine, and as I stated, they are being pushed back currently as we speak. With the deep strike potential allows, I hate to use terms such as decisive, because when people were talking about the HIMARS, when people were talking about the ATACMS, the F-16s, the smart munitions, let's talk about something more specific. It's a key tool to the arsenal that will go ahead and further force Russia to make a just peace on Ukraine's terms and on the terms of the United States.
Okay, Ashton, and finally, how do you view these sustained attacks on Russian strategic energy infrastructure? How has this reshaped Moscow's ability to finance its military effort?
Well, we're seeing drastic cuts across Russia's war economy. We're seeing record high imports coming from their partners. We're seeing Belarus being affected because Belarus is having to ship a lot of their oil products into Russia for refinement. We're seeing really Russia having to engage with their fellow axis of evil partners in a way that they could have never anticipated. And so what it's doing is not only helping us on the war front, it's making Russia a debtor state to countries that they never expected that they were going to have to go to help for, which only helps the global partnership for democracy and liberty.
Ashton Cirillo, thank you so much. You're on the ground, and thank you so much for this perspective, sir.
Always a pleasure, Anna. Thank you.
And the pleasure is ours, always. Thank you, and see you soon, hopefully. And thank you for watching World Talks here on TVP World. Please stay tuned for more.